guy. Didn't we watch
Ross.
one?
Oh yeah, you
we watched
showed
him
me. So what is he?
There's another-
Ross.
there's
So
another
people
one.
can hear. Ross.
Ross, the boss.
Ross the boss.
And anyway, like he's funny. You can tell he's hardcore right wing conservative like
Yeah.
stuff, which is great.
Yeah.
I don't say I'm hardcore right wing, but I'm definitely conservative. But he has some funny stuff on there about
Yeah, I definitely enjoy the idea of being free from oppression.
yeah.
Isn't that crazy? What
Yeah.
a crazy right wing thing to think.
Yeah, are we up? Are we rolling?
Oh yeah.
That's great. No, I've thought a lot about that, and not necessarily in the Elon Musk sense, but just I've been thinking the last week about freedom and like just the stuff that I'm doing with work and business and pursuing stuff, and thinking back about a lot of, say, the jobs that I've been involved in, or maybe businesses or whatever.
Yeah.
You lose a lot of freedom.
Oh yeah.
Like freedom of expression. People expect you to act a certain way, or you can say this, you can't say that.
Sorry about all this. I'm trying to get it really comfortable. I was like, today's going to be the most comfortable show I'm ever going to do with Matt. And I'm making it loud. So
That's awesome.
I'm scooting my chair up. I watched these Joe
we
Rogan.
we need to go grab a recliner for you. That'd be great.
Watch these Joe Rogan ones, like, Mike Tyson, and he's in there and he's just like, hey, the microphone kind of just moves with my face. And so these are smaller and they were cheaper.
Well, they're
So,
extremely comfortable because they're all higher than a kite when they're doing those things.
That's
So,
true.
Yeah.
Dude, watching Joe in that one, it was just funny because he gets excited. And what I love about their podcast and any podcast, Lex Friedman, whoever it is, when they start to get passionate about a subject. But in this subject, it was like, so there were some giants. Giants? What? Giants? Yeah, Joe. Joe, there were giants. Holy freak. Giants. I'm learning so much in this podcast.
Yeah.
That was the entire podcast. But they hooked me. They hooked me for the whole thing.
Well, and then when he'd go off on, and this is any guest, they go off on something that's like way out there or whatever, and Joe's just like, wow. Like, oh, it's good stuff.
You're like, Joe's high because he's not telling him no.
Yeah.
He's baffled.
Yeah. It's like he doesn't even know what to comment on because it's so out there or whatever. But
what are the drug laws like in Texas?
I've wondered that because I've heard him say, oh, well, pot's not legal there, so I can't do it or whatever. But I thought it was illegal in Texas, but maybe not. I don't know. I have no idea.
Would imagine with him there will be a lot of changes.
Yeah. It's interesting to see the change.
Yeah.
In everything. I think a lot of people are really, I know for me over the past 3, 4, 5 years, especially the last couple through COVID, like take everything out, everything that I thought I knew in the past, take it all out.
Yeah.
Look at it again, question it, like all of this stuff. Like even with medical stuff is
or especially with medical stuff.
Yeah, or any of it. I was listening to, it might have been Spotify, and there was a vax commercial, like saying that you should get vaccinated or whatever. And the commercial was brought to you by Pfizer. Surprise, surprise. And it's like,
Yeah.
Now that it's out there, I think a lot of people see that, recognize it before, whereas before it just, we didn't even realize it. Like, oh, wow. But it's interesting to think about all of that, all of the things that we thought as a society have been flipped upside down to where people are starting to question it.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting thing.
Well, there were a few things that you brought up yesterday that I'm sure will come up today. Back in the day, it was, oh, no, big pharma, bad. We need natural things. Well, all of those people are the ones now that are saying, we need pharma and natural things don't work. And then you have all the people driving Teslas that are going, oh, that's really bad that Elon Musk would buy Twitter. Yet they're supporting a very large corporation and a man who is also in support of very large corporations. It's just weird.
Yeah.
It's a bizarre time to live in when you see some farmers that are starting to become more liberal and you see more liberals that are becoming conservative, and people don't actually know what they are. They just listen to the news, but then the news is getting canceled. And then Elon Musk is buying Twitter, so everyone's thinking that it's going to be the Wild West, when really the Wild West was Parler. And it's like, who knows?
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Yeah.
Well, and like just the hypocrisy that's out there.
Yeah.
Like left, the left for years has been up in arms that corporations should have to pay their fair share of taxes. And then Ron DeSantis comes out and says that Disney's going to have to pay taxes now. And they're all up in arms about that.
Yeah.
Like, it's so bizarre. It's like, there's a guy that I listen to that's like, this is the best video game ever. Like, that's his, he goes through the news and he's like, you couldn't make this up. Like, we're living in a video game. Like, this is the best video game ever. Whoever's creating this reality is awesome. Like, you couldn't even just dream this stuff up. And it kind of feels that way.
Prove that we're not in a simulation.
Sure.
Now, maybe that's how God does it. He speaks and it exists. Well, you write a code and it exists. I'm not trying to put anything past. I don't know how that all worked. And I think it was all extremely complicated and everything. But when the word spoke, things happened.
Yeah.
Maybe we live in a simulation. Maybe that's how you can have multiverses going on all the time, which are proven at this point. All these things that are proved, but then it's like, how can you prove this on all these different levels, but we still can't see? Well, maybe because there's a bajillion of them, and every action that we have is turned in another dimension. I don't know, but it's possible. Maybe this seriously is just a simulation that we live in.
Well, I think it was Neil A. Maxwell basically said that the reality is the spiritual realm, especially if you believe in God and that there was a pre-existence and that there's a heaven after we get done here. Like, that's the reality, and the physical world is a virtual reality that we're in to be tested and lived through and tried and all that stuff. I think he actually spoke to that, where our reality isn't even real.
Yeah.
Just kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah. Well,
so
I've done very little in the psychedelic realm. Everything I've ever done has been clinical, doctors noted, but ketamine will shoot you right to the top of the universe and show you how it's organized. And it's interesting because it is not organized like we would think that it is. It is time and space and dimension and geometry. There's a lot of math that goes into how everything's created.
Well, and it's just laws.
Yep.
Like, we think of math as like of rules, there's rules to it and stuff, and there's laws governing everything. Like, we know that. We don't know what they all are. And we've talked about that a lot on here too, like the law of attraction, or just how things work when you focus on them, like how things expand. Like, those are, I think, laws.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how that works, but there's something there because it's been proven over and over and over again through individual experience, myself, and through other people that have experienced it,
Yep.
So anyway, it is interesting to think about. Which, if that's all true, and it is a simulation, and there are these laws that we don't really know. Why not try to test them all?
Oh, I
And not
agree.
in a negative way. Why not live the absolute best life that you want to? Now, that's hard sometimes because we don't know what we want, but at least go in that direction. Something seems interesting to you, pursue it. Go check it out. Go
Yep.
see what's there. Go look at that opportunity. Why not do that if none of this stuff really matters that much anyway, because it's all simulation, as long as you're doing it in a moral, legal, good way. Like what's the there's a saying that you always say
It's just like
along that.
moral, legal, and ethical.
Yeah,
Um,
but like pursuing a worthy ideal.
oh yeah. Well, that'd be the definition of success. So um, the progressive realization of a worthy ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So something that's worthy would fall into a worthy
Yeah.
ideal would fall into that legal, moral, ethical, that kind
Yeah.
of stuff.
Yeah.
Go try it all.
Yep.
Why not?
Well, and interestingly, the moral and ethical side of things that stems from religion. There are even talks that religions were founded solely because we were living in an Antarctic,
Mhm.
not the Antarctic, but
Anarchy.
Mm-hmm. And something needed to happen to where we had consequences for our actions. And with sin and forgiveness, there are consequences. And so there's a really good book. They might have talked about it a little bit in that Mike Tyson interview, but it's a book by John M. Allegro, and it's called Mushrooms and the Sacred Cross. Fascinating book. I don't think that I'm on board with it completely, but in that book, he is an academic. There's nothing religious about this book at all, but he says that there was some anarchy and they found their way into drinking psychedelic substances, and how in these psychedelic substances they saw visions of higher powers that taught them how to do things that would make them more moral and ethical. So that's how religion was created. Interestingly, and like I want to say, I don't believe that this is everything at all. But interestingly, he goes on to say, at this time with Amanita muscaria mushroom, it was here, and you can see that when it was taken by this person, then this part of the Bible was written, and then this came out, and it kind of chronologically goes through, and he goes, all the visions that they had, they were mushroom trips. And you go, okay, well, does that destroy religion? I actually don't think that it destroys religion. I think that it adds to it. I think if we live in a scientific world, then there are probably scientific ways that we get spoken to by higher powers. But just very interesting, because we talk morals and ethics and what's legal, moral, and ethical. Well, where did all that come from? Well, there's a lot of evidence that it came from mushrooms.
Well, it's interesting too along those lines. I haven't even looked into that kind of stuff very much at all. But I really enjoy listening to Jordan Peterson.
Oh yeah.
His books or podcasts or anything. I just really think that he's genuinely searching for truth, and it's anyway, but he has a podcast, probably lots of them, but this one that I listened to he was interviewing a top researcher on psilocybin, so psychedelics, and kind of just happened into it. It's not like he was into that stuff and really wanted to come up with a reason for it or whatever. He wasn't looking for a positive reaction to it. But in their studies and the experiences that people had with those, they there was people that had similar experiences without taking psychedelic substances.
Yeah.
So through meditation or, some of these other practices that can be done. And so he, kind of through all of the research he's done, there was positive life changing things that became of those and changed a lot of those people's lives.
Yeah.
But kind of to wrap it all up, he was saying, I think we'll get to a point where we can understand this so much that we won't even need to take substances to get into this kind of state,
Yeah.
Which is interesting to think of too. Sure, maybe there was psychedelics or whatever in the past that people have taken where they've gotten visions or whatever, but it's interesting to note too that, well, a lot of those people could have got that same result without taking that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And maybe it doesn't, if you're getting the same result, maybe it doesn't matter how you get there. I don't know.
Oh, well, I think you're onto something, because DMT itself, dimethyltryptamine, is in your brain right now.
Right.
It's just, it has an inhibitor that's not allowing it through. So, maybe what is termed a deep spiritual experience for someone where they're having visions. I believe that we live in a scientific world. Why is it not that inhibitor is just taken away temporarily so that that vision can continue?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make that person crazy. It actually makes that person very in tune, being able to push out of the way an inhibitor so the DMT can do their thing. And
yeah, why were we created or evolved to have that receptor anyway? If
sure.
not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's an interesting thought.
Yeah. And why is DMT in almost every plant? We just can't get to it unless we know how. So grass, you can go chew on some grass like a cow. You're gonna be full of DMT. It's gonna do nothing to you because you don't have the inhibitor, the amylase inhibitor, something like that, that inhibits part of, so that you can have the experience of DMT. It's really interesting. It's also interesting that take ayahuasca, for example. They take ayahuasca leaves and something else, and there's like 10,000 different plants down in the Amazon, and they take these two and they boil them at a certain temperature, and then they kind of rough them up, and then they boil them again and rough them up and do these specific things to them at specific temperatures for specific times. Then they put it together, boil it a little bit more for a specific amount of time, let it cool down, and then you drink it. And you have insane hallucinogenic response to it. What's crazier to me than having an insane response is that someone took the time to know which of tens of thousands of plants it was going to take to boil at a specific amount for a specific time with another tens of thousands, and being able to put them together and boil them and let them cool and boil them, let them cool so that someone could have this. Like, who?
How did that process come about?
How?
And how many poisonous things did they do along the
Yes.
way and people died from it?
Exactly. Or even like Mike Tyson the other day is like, yeah, they use white cobra venom. That's like it's better than narcotics.
Who came
What
up with
idiots like, hey, milk that snake and then inject it in my arm.
Yeah.
Oh, yep. Totally like opiates. That's what I thought. Makes no sense.
I had a suspicion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It really is. I don't know. It is I don't know. It's an interesting thing to think about some of these things. And I think that, I don't know, it'll be interesting to see where it goes in the future, because I think through COVID and all of this stuff, a lot of people see, like, it's weird to me that taking a medication from a pharmaceutical company can be deemed okay.
Yeah.
But some of these natural things are prohibited.
Yeah.
Like, like I feel like the mask has come off of that industry to the point that it's a money creation machine. It's not necessarily maybe we're going to get banned now on all of this, but
I hope
it's just interesting to see. I think a lot of people are questioning the the therapeutic value of a lot of stuff that we've used. And obviously there is good benefits to a lot of it, but there's also been some things that have been covered up and everything else, in the name of big business and making a lot of money. And so
Yeah.
it's just interesting. I think a lot of people their mindset is shifting in that. And some of these things that were maybe taboo before are becoming a little, like, I think about CBD. Like I remember when CBD balm or oil or something came out, like not even the kind that's got anything in it. Like what, 10 years ago, maybe, is kind of when it started hitting mainstream. Like that was a big deal. Like a lot of people were like,
get me high.
Yeah, like debates, even like on TV and in, local governments and on the news, you'd see it and everything. And now it's just kind of like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Like everybody uses CBD now for the most part. I mean, there's probably some that don't, but.
And did you guys realize we could have been making houses out of this the whole time, and we could have been saving the environment, and our houses would be fireproof, and we could have been making rope and paper and all that, but instead you guys wanted to push your logging industry, and no one knew that. Okay.
Yeah,
Sounds
like
good.
it's just it's interesting to see kind of how society changes, and I don't know. It'll
You
be
didn't know
interesting
that
to see
hemp
how
and marijuana are different just because they kind of look the same? Idiots. Like,
Well, but
it
I
really
think,
bugs me.
but I think too. Well, I think too, though, that's the thing is, where do you get your information?
Yep.
And who are you listening to?
Yeah.
And a lot of that stuff. I think a lot of people are going, I gotta look at different sources of information and figure it out for myself.
Yeah.
And I think that's come out of the last 2 years big time.
They couldn't do it before. I mean, literally before, if the New York Times came out and said, hemp marijuana found to be dangerous to 60% of population. What are you going to do? Go grab some hemp and some marijuana and do some double-blind placebo studies on that? No, you're just going to take it at face value and do whatever they say.
Right.
Oh, all these things happening. We need to have prohibition on alcohol. Okay, well, there were some people that were asking, why do we need to have prohibition on alcohol? And then they got to run their black ops stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, people just believed it. Well, it's so dangerous. We need to prohibit it. It's just weird.
Yeah.
But now that's not even a thing. Like I can hop on right now and pull up way more articles that are going to show the positive benefits of microdosing mushrooms than the negative benefits of microdosing mushrooms. In fact, there may not even be a negative benefit to it.
Mm-hmm.
But for the last 50 years, we've said heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine, and mushrooms are all Schedule 1 narcotics.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what does a mushroom have to do with it? A poor little mushroom. They're just trying to make the world a better place.
Well, it is interesting to hear, now that there is open conversation about it, there's a lot of people that have come out and talked about it. Like, what was that? Dakota Meyer, he was on Joe Rogan,
Oh, yeah.
but
Yeah.
he also wrote a book. I remember reading, he wrote a book,
He did Ibogaine.
quite a while, quite a few years ago. And I remember reading his book then, but yeah, I mean, he talks about it, how he did it once and it cured his depression and suicidal thoughts and that kind of stuff, and he's not somebody that's out trying to get high all the time necessarily. I mean, there's lots of examples, and there's even, I feel like, lots of doctors that are starting to prescribe that and different kinds of therapy. So it's just interesting to see how the narrative changes.
Yeah.
I feel like you bringing this around to business, maybe even, I feel like the narrative is changing there too. The societal norm of go get a job, go to college, all of those kind of things are going away. And people are wanting more of their own freedom to choose how they express themselves and what they pursue and the things that make them excited about work and about adding value to society. And I think that there's a lot of that stuff too that is coming into it, where people see that there's some flawed aspects of getting a job and having to conform to somebody else's time and somebody else's rules, and having to look the way that that person wants you to look and do the things that that person wants you to do. It's, I don't know, it's cool to see. I think that for as much garbage as we see, the attempt of overreach and over I don't know, I can't think of the word, but more government control or government, you know, government control.
Yeah.
That we are living in a time that is probably more free, if we choose to be, than any other time in history. You know, we can choose what we want to pursue as a career. We can choose how we do that and how we express ourselves, and it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Do you think it's more now like a mental slavery? You know, like how far away are we from that at all times? Yours is a little farther away than mine,
Yeah.
but mine blinks and it goes, I've got tomorrow, however, no appointments tonight. And like I could have waited. It's weird, you know, like what mental control. And you know, if this pops up and says we're at war with Russia,
Yeah.
but back in the day, they didn't hear that for weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just wonder what kind of mental slavery we're in right now.
It is true. I mean, there's an ad trying to sell us something all the time. You know,
Yeah.
we aren't really necessarily free to have our own thoughts, maybe. But on
Yeah.
the flip side of that, we're free to, if we want to pursue a business doing whatever, then we
Yeah.
can. You know,
Yeah.
it is bizarre to live in the time right now. But there's lots of cool things,
Yeah.
I think. So it'll be interesting to see kind of where we get to going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun. There's literally, like you said, as far as freedom goes and freedom to do and be anything you want, the sky's the limit right now. It used to be a limiting factor. Was I going to go to school on campus, and what campus and where and how long and how expensive? And now it's, you can do any campus anywhere because of online classes, and there are courses that are being outsourced to other colleges. You can do anything anywhere for almost any price. There are grants, there are stimulus packages, there's internships. I mean, you can do anything
if that's what you want to pursue.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting too to see, like, it just seems like everything is being contradicted every time. Like we talked about, you know, people complaining about big corporations not paying taxes, and then complaining when they do have to pay taxes. And, you know, like everything is a contradiction. Well, same with college. You know, they're going to tell you one way to run a business. If you go to a business school, they're going to tell you this is how you run a business.
Yeah.
We'll go interview most of the self-made business people, and they're going to say, we didn't do it the way that I learned in college how to build a business. You know, almost I was looking at somebody's, that lion, is it Lions Not Sheep? Have you seen that?
Yeah.
That apparel brand?
Yeah, I have one of their shirts.
Is it Sean Whalen? Is that what that guy's name is? I don't know. But I was just looking at his, like one of his things popped up or whatever. And there again, well, my mind was being controlled by Instagram, right?
Yeah.
So, but it popped up. And so I was just kind of looking through a few of his posts I thought was interesting. And one of them was like, hey, how do I learn how to build a business plan? Was one of the questions or something. His response was, I don't know. I've never done one.
That's awesome.
You know, and here he's has a multi-million-dollar apparel brand that he's built from nothing.
Yep.
You know, and it seems like every time that I read about an entrepreneur, they are not doing it the way that we are taught to do it in traditional education. You know, so it's interesting. Not that there's anything wrong with that if there's things that people want to pursue when they're going, but I think that same with the medical stuff we were talking about. you need to know both sides of it. You need to know, okay, college does have benefits. This is what the benefits are, but being an entrepreneur and doing some of these other things has benefits too, and looking at both of them instead of it just always being, you have to go to college to be successful. You have to, like we have been shielded from a lot of the truth a lot of the time, just depending on what agenda they're wanting to, people are wanting to get across. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Well, and then that's a that's a deep agenda. That when you're talking schooling, we are literally talking richest people in the world that wanted really good employees.
Mm-hmm.
That whole system was set up for that. And that's not a conspiracy theory. It really was.
Mm-hmm.
That system was set up by the Rockefeller Foundation so that they could get better employees out of the business. Now you have little tiny things here and there, like Florida, they're passing a bill where you have to have a financial education class before you can graduate high school. Great. What I'd really like to see is when they're 5 and 6, they're teaching them supply and demand.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even messing with their lunch a little bit.
Some
hey,
Austrian economics in there
yes.
instead of just total liberal.
Yep. So teach them the real things, make them live it. This stuff of, well, Lincoln asked me the other day, he's like, Dad, is it hard to pass high school? I was like, no. Mm-hmm. Everybody passes high school.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm just really worried because I've got tests and this and that. Like, you might pass high school with a bad grade, but when you hand that diploma to somebody, they're not looking at the grade on it. Mm-hmm. Like, you do your best and you learn as much as you can. When you want to learn extra, you come to Mom and I, and we're going to help you find places where you want to learn extra. But it's not hard to get that diploma.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a piece of paper. Literally what it is. Back in the day, I would say that associates and bachelor's degrees were more than that. I'd say, yeah, they were specialized, and you got this education and that. COVID, if it's taught us anything in the past couple of years, that is just a piece of paper.
Yeah.
That you could have got that knowledge anywhere, and you probably got less knowledge than you ever would have. There were teachers just passing people off of classes saying, hey, because of COVID, don't even worry about it. Everyone's getting an A.
Mm-hmm.
But we're remote. We can talk. I can do all my work. Yeah, but these new COVID policies, it's nuts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a bachelor's degree. I've never once asked somebody to see it ever. I could have put on my resume or whatever. I've actually only, let's see, I've done like 2 jobs where they wanted a resume, whatever. Yeah. So I, obviously had that on there. Nobody ever asked for it. I could have put, no, I'm not saying to do this.
Yeah.
But it might as well have not have been on there. It meant nothing to these, to these organizations that I applied to. Nothing. Yeah. Like there wasn't even they said there was a pay raise, but there actually wasn't a pay raise for me having that. Like it didn't matter one bit. And so, it's kind of, granted, if you want to be a doctor, obviously, or some of these things, there's a system set up that you need to go down that path to do it. And great. Like if that's what you want to do, go for it. But if you're wanting to start your own drywall business, or you want to be involved in construction, or you want to be, an artist or whatever. Well, I don't know about an artist. Maybe going to college helps as an artist, but honestly, do your art, post it on Instagram, learn how to build your social media account. Like I see some incredible art stuff on Instagram, and none of it was learned in college.
No.
It's just people being creative and making cool stuff. Like that's it,
Yep.
So I mean, it's just so interesting to see the 2 sides of the story, and I feel like a lot of people are cluing into that and seeing that and looking for their truth, the truth for themselves.
Truth.
Yeah.
My truth is different than your truth.
So anyway, it is interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting stuff. and it's all pertinent to life and where we're at right now, and that, maybe how life is getting it is just better. We're both advocates of business, but maybe this goes even further, and you want to teach your kids good solid principles, and how to be moral and ethical and follow the law and just be good people. It might be kind of hard in the school system right now. Our kids come home from school and say some pretty crazy stuff that they're hearing from kids at school. That's not conducive to their learning. So Lincoln, he doesn't even want to be in school, and he has such great arguments why he doesn't want to be. That I have to start arguing on the other side, arguing for something that I don't even agree with. But he's like, well, most of the time we're not learning. I'm like, okay, what are you doing? Well, they give us busy work, stuff that they know that we can do, but it's just because the teacher doesn't want to be working the whole time. And I was like, okay, well, I remember that. I was like, well, why don't you just hurry and finish up your busy work and move on to other things? Well, that's what we do. But then they give us more busy work because we're too fast.
Get done quick. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that sucks. No, but I just want to be home with you guys because it seems like what you're doing is pretty successful, and I just want to do what you guys want to do. I'm like, well, but buddy, I had to go to school and I had to go through all that stuff. Yeah, but you sifted it out for me, Dad. You know what's good and what's not. Dang it, kid. He's right.
Yeah.
It's just it's weird. There's also the societal thing. You pull your kids out of school, automatically you're the bad parent.
Yeah. It is weird.
Yeah.
Have you ever read any of like the unschooling books?
Mm-mm.
There's an author, I'm sure I've got it on here, wrote about all of that, like back to the Rockefeller thing, and like has a ton of books on that, like pro homeschooling, pro, all of this stuff. And it makes you wonder, like, is that just because of, I'm going to look up his name because he's well known. I've listened to a couple of his stuff. Breezy's listened to quite a bit of it because she's a teacher, and she's a teacher that's very pro homeschooling.
Yeah.
Like she's kind of so she kind of teaches at a school that is basically a homeschool. Like it's basically, she's helping the parents come up with curriculum and stuff for her kids, So, but anyway, but she's studied it out a lot, and it's interesting. It's not and I think it's just different than it used to be. Plus you add in all of the like sex stuff and all of the craziness that people are trying to institute as educational. And it's like, okay, like the amount of value that was there to begin with was small. It's getting even smaller. And I know a lot of people too say, well, I want the social aspect of it. My kids have plenty of the amount of freaking activities that we have them in. Most kids I know have plenty of social opportunities.
I can tell you, I do not remember one teacher ever until this would have been third grade, and she was going on a date that night.
Going on a date?
Mm-hmm. Before that, kindergarten, first grade, with Mrs. So-and-so, Mr. this, Mr. that. They didn't talk about their wives or their husbands, or they just didn't talk about it. They taught us stuff. They taught us school.
Yeah.
So I don't know why in third grade, Miss Trist was going to go on a date. But it wasn't like, Miss Trist, you going to go on a date? Like, are you going to go with a girl or a boy?
Yeah.
No, she was just going on a date.
Yeah.
Like, it was kind of like, whatever. It was off the side.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe when you start to get into 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade, and boys and girls are starting to say some stuff, teachers could rein it in a little bit and be like, hey, we're going to watch our mouths here. We're going to talk nice. And then need you guys to go talk to your parents about some stuff here because I've been hearing things that we don't need to be discussing in school. This is school. That's what needs to be happening here. But instead, it's like kindergarten. I need to be telling them about my sexual orientation.
Right.
No,
Right.
you don't.
Right.
You need to be teaching them about blue and green and purple. Done.
The alphabet.
The
ABCs.
alphabet. Well, LGBTQRS is in it.
Yeah.
And by the way, I have no problem
Right.
with gay people or LGBTQRS or trans or like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I have friends in they're all the realms,
Mm-hmm.
even white friends. It's just nuts to me
Just
that
like plain white.
plain
Like,
white.
That's it.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
man.
I know they're so boring.
Lame.
But it's just nuts that it's like that's the world we live in. Like how white? Pretty white. How dark? Pretty dark.
Yeah,
It doesn't make sense.
It is. It's so bizarre. So that guy's name is John Taylor Gatto. I don't even know if he's around anymore or not.
They probably off.
But yeah, probably the Rockefellers, you mean? So, but he has a whole bunch of that stuff where he talks about that. Like, and he was actually like an educator for, a long time, like decades.
Yeah.
And he goes in and is kind of debunking all of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's just, which I think comes back to, to bring this around to a cash calf message is educate yourself.
Yeah.
We were wondering what kind of our baseline, some of our first podcasts were about. It's probably about education.
Yeah.
Educate yourself, and not education in the college, school, whatever kind of stuff, but educate yourself. Like, get your mind to a point to where you question everything and you look into it and you make good choices and you reason correctly and all of those kind of things that can help you be successful.
Yeah.
And help your families to be successful.
Yeah. I showed some a group of kids that were with their leaders yesterday, a couple airplanes, and we talked careers. And something that I thought was really cool is they've taken away the degree requirement to be a passenger airline pilot because there's a big pilot shortage right now. There's a shortage in all of aviation. So manufacturing.
Interesting. So the degree wasn't a necessity for them to learn how to fly an airplane.
Exactly. Yeah. They're like, you need a bachelor's degree in order to be here when there was a plethora of pilots.
Yeah.
And then what's the first thing that happens when they need a pilot? They're like, we can take away that degree requirement.
We actually don't care about
In
that.
fact, we kind of have started caring about something called experience just a little bit more. Let's get these pilots with experience. Oh, you flew in Vietnam? Oh, you've flown for 90,000 hours and never crashed? Okay, cool. Let's oh, you don't have a bachelor's degree? Sorry,
you're
never
out.
mind.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so it's cool. Just letting these kids know, like, hey, education is important. Education is insanely important. But where you get that education from does not have to give you a degree. They don't need to give you a diploma. What you need is specialized education. And if you want to be a pilot, there is a way that's set up to where you could go to a school and get a bachelor's degree in aviation. And it's going to cost you $150,000 and it's going to take you 3 years. And when you leave, you're going to be a pilot with an instrument rating and a commercial rating and multi-engine. That's pretty cool. But you're going to be in a lot of student loan debt. Or you can,
because you have to take liberal, whatever, arts and basket weaving and all of the stuff that has nothing to do with being an airline pilot.
exactly.
Yeah.
Or you can do what my flight instructor did, which was become a private pilot, buy an airplane, a cheap one, use that airplane to start teaching people how to fly. Now he started a business. And while he's making money, he's building his time to where he can go to a big company and they can say, hey, we want you because you got a lot of time. And he goes, okay, perfect. Now in my part-time, still teaching people, still getting hours, but now he's flying multi-engine airplanes, still doing it, getting in his hours, has no student loan debt. And then the big
Has actually gotten paid to get those hours.
getting paid to get the hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then the big transport company goes, hey, we'd really like you to fly for us. No student loan debt, owns an airplane, gets paid to fly. Now he found his dream job. Those are the two routes that you can go. And this is happening among many careers right now. It's not just pilots. It's, welders. For a little while, there was this push, like you got to have a welding degree or just become a really good welder.
Yeah. Go weld for some farmers for 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Like I guarantee you right now, if somebody out there, you'd have to be a decent welder, obviously.
Yes.
But you said you bought a truck and said, okay, I'm going to weld, and you start putting the word out. I guarantee you, I mean, we live in an ag area, but like when I was farming, there was one guy that you could get to come and weld stuff for you. And he was like probably 75 years old then.
Yeah.
And he's probably, so what would he be now? Probably in his 80s. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe my numbers are off, not by much, but they might be off by a little bit. But he's probably pushing 75 or 80 now. I'll bet he's still doing it. Like just a hard working guy, but he was the only person that would come and that we could call to come and weld something.
Yeah.
Like there's such a shortage of that. Okay. So you buy a truck with a welder on it and whatever, you go and you weld for farmers or on small, mobile jobs for 5 years. How much experience do you have on that? I mean, tons, as much work as you want. And then you get to the end of that 5 years. If you want to go do something else, you go, if you do want to step it up into something else, then you have the experience to be able to do it. You're exactly right. I mean, there's so many opportunities like that.
Yeah, it's so cool because there's something that actually speaks to me because I love audiobooks and I love traveling a little bit. And in a part of my life that will probably never happen, that would be like the perfect job for me. 4 or 5 hours a day. There's probably more in travel, but you're honing a skill every time you're working. You're listening to good audiobooks. You're seeing the pretty
You get to talk to lots of
place that
different
we
people.
live in. Yeah. That's business. That's cash calf business. Like,
Yep.
That's what maybe people don't understand, and people don't. We'll talk with people and we're like, hey, we're small business consultants. We help people start businesses, and they're like what? Like Amazon? You're like, are you kidding me? Like
Yeah.
Amazon?
Yeah.
That's what you came up with? Like out of everything, let's start driving down the street here, and you guys pick off what movies with your kids. Sometimes it's kind of fun. I'm like, Domino's, Five Guys. I'm like, they're missing over Freeman Clothing, which is just totally mom and pop clothing shop that does really well. They're missing over Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory, which I think maybe that one is franchise, but you miss over.
Or the Merrill Landscaping that's
Yeah.
keeping up the flower beds in front
Yeah.
of those, or Weed Man Lawn Care that's taking care of the park, or whatever it is.
Exactly.
There's so many things behind the scenes.
Yep.
That are small business. Everything.
Yep. Everything.
Our country runs because of small business.
Yep. Yeah.
Really.
It really is. And there's not enough people to run those right now. I mean, talk to anyone who has laborers. They're short. Try to get a contractor to go do anything right now. I'm backed up. Why are you backed up? I don't have people to work for me. Why don't you do it yourself? I am.
Yeah.
So
I had to
it's
install
crazy.
a whole bunch of 8-inch irrigation line the other day because we couldn't get anybody to. His guys weren't there that day. And I don't think that it was that they just didn't show up. I think that they had other stuff going on. But his comment was the same thing. This is our excavation guy, and he's like, I'm having a hard time finding people to show up. So I did it, which was great. It was a good workout for the day, but but I think, all of those examples, the airplane, the pilot example, the welder example, all of it, like the difference in those two modes of getting to those places is just a little bit of shifting your mindset
Yeah.
and being creative and saying, okay, the mainstream idea is go to school, get a job, da 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 da. Okay, well, how can I do it differently and more efficiently
Yeah.
and better? How can I get paid while I'm doing this? How can I, get more hours than those people are going to come up with or whatever? It's just changing our thinking a little bit.
Yeah.
And that goes into everything. That goes into our health. That goes into the way we're raising our families, the way we're making money, all of it. I think that's the cool thing about the time we live in is
Yes.
if we want to make a change, then we can.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and we can figure it out.
I just said I don't know.
No,
I do know.
I do it all the time. And you do know. The nice thing is the internet. If we don't know, you can hop on the internet and you can get testimonial after testimonial of people who have done this. And you can hop on the phone and call person after person after person, people much smarter than I am, that, hey, I have got this tax question. Hey, I thought about doing a mobile welding business. What do you think about this? We had one business. It was a mobile gymnastics bus,
Yeah.
and I was all in on it, but my wife was a little skeptical, so she started to call around, and it was cool for her to talk to these people because they were like, "You realize this is kind of the best kept secret in gymnastics, right?" She's like, "Oh, what do you mean? You have no overhead. You're only going to places where they want you. You can charge almost the same amount of money as if they're bringing kids to you.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting kids in the middle of the day when they would be at daycare. So you can still run a gym, like just all these things." And just because she made some phone calls,
Mm-hmm.
and most people want to help. So sometimes you might call someone who's like, "Ooh, I'm a little worried about that competition." They're not going to talk to you. Usually, though, it's going to be someone wants to ask me questions.
Yeah.
Wow, I feel like such a celebrity right now.
Right.
And then you answer the questions, or they answer the questions, and you learn a lot. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah. 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 There is so much opportunity, that it's kind of it's kind of painful when you hear people that are like, oh, there's just not any opportunity right now. And it's like, there's never been a time in history where there is more opportunity to live the way that we want, the lifestyle that we want. If you want to sleep all day long and find something to do so you can work at night, you can do that.
Yeah.
If like we can live the lifestyle we want, we can look the way that we want, which I mean, look at me, like obviously,
Me too.
like we can there is there's no reason that we can't be successful in doing it the way that we want to live life. It's cool.
One of my affirmations is I dress for success, and I dress like this.
Mm-hmm.
For me, this is success. Did I tell you about the dinner that I had the other night with my sister when we were talking about opportunity?
Mm-mm.
So I did put it in that that little ebook that we're going to release.
Yeah.
And if she's listening, I'm sorry that I'm telling this story, but we can all be better. So they run a little business down there, and I said, how's things going? And they're like, oh, not very good right now. There's just not a lot of opportunity down here right now. And Kira and I like literally both looked at each other and looked back with like dumbfounded. We're like, what? What do you mean there's not a lot of opportunity down here right now? Oh, there's just not a lot of opportunity around. No.
Yeah.
No. You're not looking for the opportunity. You're hanging around with the wrong people.
Yeah.
You aren't praying at night saying thank you for all the opportunity. I mean, there's a lot.
If you want to send some more, I'm open to it.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Yep. And giving them the benefit of the doubt, they've both just changed some jobs and life's been a little bit crazy. And so, yeah, sometimes when life is crazy, opportunity is not going to pop out like it does when you're really looking for it.
Yeah.
Man, you start looking for opportunity, it will find you. How many dents are in cars, and you can order a little mobile dent taker outer from Amazon. Go charge people $20 to pull dents out of their cars.
Mm-hmm.
There's people doing that now that are making $100,000 a year and working with insurance companies. And they just started by grabbing something on
Yeah.
Amazon because they wanted to pull their own dent out. Then their roommate, hey, will you do that? Yeah, for $20, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You'll pay me? Really?
Well, and I think something important you said there was hanging around with different people.
Yeah.
Like, because sometimes I think we do get blinded to opportunity, but we go to dinner with, a friend and it's like, oh, I'm just struggling right now, find an opportunity. Well, have you made a website and sold your product online? Oh, no, I haven't done that. Oh,
Yeah.
do you have an Instagram page and you're reaching out to influencers to see if they would want your project? Oh, I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
Like sometimes just a different perspective on things.
Yeah.
Like we kind of get stuck in our own, like a wagon rut or whatever. And sometimes so, I mean, like you said, hanging out with the right people,
Yeah.
that's huge too, is getting new perspectives. Cause sometimes it's hard to see maybe an opportunity or possibility when we're kind of stuck in it, but somebody from the outside's like, oh, like do this or do that or whatever,
I wish I knew the exact story, but this is a cool story. It's just fibbed because I don't know the exact story, but there's this multi-millionaire rich guy back in the day. And they said, what would you do if you lost all your money and you had to start over? He said, I would go be a dishwasher and at the restaurant with the most successful people.
Okay.
And I would earn enough money that I could buy a suit and a cigar and a plate of food. And I'd be done working, I'd go to the front and I'd go in and I'd introduce myself to as many people as I could. And then when I ran out of my food, I'd go into the back and I'd do it over and over and over again. Like that's how I'd start becoming successful again. That story right there is I'm going to work, I'm going to get the right clothes, and then I'm just going to go meet the right people.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's all about. To him, meeting the right people was the success. And you could look at that and go, so he's just using all those other people? No. He was letting all those other people know what his skills are. And then they're going to start working with their skills and skills within skills. And then they're going to go add value to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Networking. So incredibly important. We're the sum of the 5 people that we hang out with the most. 100% true.
Yeah.
Alcoholics Anonymous. I think one of their steps is get rid of your friends that drink.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's probably the best step. If you stop hanging out with people that are pushing you to drink, start hanging out with people that are pushing you to exercise, there's a big deal there. And if it works in something as practical as AA, or works in something as practical as if you lost all your money and you're going to start a new job, it works in every area of our life.
Yeah.
You're lifting weights with someone and you want to get better. Are you better than the person you're lifting weights with? If you are, you're probably not getting better. You need to find a new person that's pushing you.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not pushing you, you're not growing.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Relationships, have these conversations with your spouses. Not that I'm going to go find another person. Have the relationship of, or the conversation. I need pushed.
Mm-hmm.
Please push me a little bit more. Can, for the next month, can you expect a little bit more out of me? I need that.
Well, and I think that's the value of biting off. I have some friends that are like, man, and that look at business, say, the business I'm involved in or the business you're involved in, and they're like, man, I just don't know how you guys can do that, because of, I think the risk probably is what scares a lot of people off.
Yeah.
And just, even more so than the actual moving parts of it and everything, just the risk part of it. But so I have some people that are like, man, I wish that I could do that, but I can't, kind of thing. And or they want to do it and they just are over analyzing it.
Yeah.
And I think we both kind of are of the mentality that you just got to jump in.
Just got to do it.
You just got to jump in, and there's like that saying out there that's you bite off more than you can chew, and then you just start chewing like crazy,
Yeah.
to make
Yeah.
up for it. And I feel that anything that I've been successful in, I've done that. And I think we've talked about that. I think you feel the same way, and you just gotta jump in. But the good thing about that jumping in and biting off more than you can chew is it does push you
Mm-hmm.
naturally, because you're a little bit scared, and there's some failure there that you don't want to, the consequence could be a bad consequence. And so I think that that's absolutely true. Push it. And that's probably why entrepreneurs are always kind of looking for new opportunities and stuff like that, is it pushes us to jump in and go for it.
Yeah.
And then it's motivating to do that. And it's fun.
It's fun. It's there's nothing better. Getting in a comfort zone for more than like a year,
Mm-hmm.
it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And getting out of a comfort zone also sucks, but in such a better way, because you're learning, you're growing, you're spreading yourself thin, you're figuring things out, you're becoming creative, you're becoming a creator. You're taking that matter unorganized, then you're organizing it.
Yep.
You're being, is it a demigod? That's like a,
I don't know. When you say demigod, isn't that on Moana?
I think, yeah, because I
That
think
dude is a
I think he's
demigod.
a demigod.
I don't know what that means.
Hey Jamie.
but-
Um,
yeah. Instead of Alexa, we need
Yeah.
Jamie on our phone.
Yeah.
Hey Jamie,
What is
the Moana
a
song's gonna
demigod?
pop up.
What is a demisexual? I won't look that one up. Being a being with a partial or lesser divine status, such as a minor deity, the offspring of a god or a mortal, or a mortal raised to a divine rank. Some Roman emperors claimed descent from demigods such as Hercules. Where was I even going with that?
I don't know. We're talking about creating stuff.
Oh yeah, we're like on the earth, so we're children of God.
Mm-hmm.
On the earth, you can be like a demigod.
Yeah.
We can
We're
take.
a lesser version, I guess. Yeah,
I'm a much
Yeah. Sure.
lesser version,
for sure.
but you can actually take things that are unorganized and we can organize them. That is business, and it's cool. Like, we just took something that was nothing and made it something.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. And all of a sudden now there's value exchange. We just created commerce. We just made what took maybe thousands and thousands of years to figure out. We already knew how to do it. So we organized some things. And then all of a sudden somebody gets tacos and I get money. And then I can take that money and go buy toilet paper and a house.
And you each valued what you received more than what you gave.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's a great
Yeah.
system.
Yeah, it's really cool. So, I mean, takeaway from today, we talked about a lot, but
Yeah, we kind of did. It's kind of freestyle.
yeah,
It's fun though.
Yeah, I liked it.
From psychedelics to freedom to business to school.
Yeah.
Lots of good stuff.
I think the key is that we can do anything, really. And you don't have to get caught up on the, do I need to go do psychedelics, or do I need to go to school, or what do I need to do? There's no step of what you need to do right now. There really are no steps. You need to create
Yeah.
if you're going to be an entrepreneur. If the entrepreneurial journey and the entrepreneurial revolution that we're in right now, you want to go out and build something, build a cash cow, build a cash calf, you've just got to get out and start creating. So get out and create.
I love it. That's it.
That's it.
Create.
Okay. Nothing more.
That was fun. That was a good episode. Just talked about a lot of stuff. So
Yeah.
it was good.
Yeah.
Right on.
Sweet. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.